The fact that I, Meghan McCain, co-host of The View, I don't know when or how I will be able to get a vaccine. And I think the idea that she was going to end up being one of these incredible candidates after I'm so sorry. She actually ended up profiting. I don't know if you guys remember. She ended up profiting from the coronavirus. She secretly went into. Right. I'm sorry. My train of thought is so off right now. I apologize. Can you just move on to someone else? I'm sorry. The Republican Party is in much more trouble right now because you have really traitors. You have AOC saying she's going excuse me, am I done? I'm not done. Well, it's just that's completely inaccurate. You have AOC fighting right now about whether or not she's going to end up primarying Chuck Schumer. Bernie Sanders also coming out saying he's angry. The idea that there isn't fighting within the Democratic Party as well. I know what you're saying. Right. I'm talking about somebody answer. Yeah. You missed me so much when I was on maternity leave. You missed me so much. You missed fighting with me. Don't act like you missed fighting with me. I did not miss you. Okay, somebody answer the question. Can I weigh in? Or I'm moving on.
I'd like to weigh in.
That's so nasty.
Can I weigh in?
Okay, guys, hold on. Stop. Everybody stop. That's so rude.
Sarah, I'd like to hear from you right now. Well, what have you got to say?
Thank you. I wanted to address what you were saying about the Republican Party breaking. We talk about the fracture, but I wanted to ask Meghan if she feels there really is a fracture. Do you think Trump's era will reign beyond him in the Republican Party?
You know, I think Sunny was trying to talk, so you should just ask her.
Oh. No, let me, listen. Okay, hold on, guys.
I can weigh in.
There was a question. I understand that. But, you know, I wanted to hear from Sarah. Sarah asked a question. So can you give her an answer or no? You can't.
I really wanted to talk about Georgia.
A lot of people of color have every right to be skeptical of the government. They have been burnt for generations by various policies.
I'm not saying
and so they're nervous. That's different. Excuse me, I'm not done.
I think that, but Republicans have reasons to be nervous for other. I am not trying to judge. I want as many people vaccinated in as many ways. But I think when you come on the show and just say, "Oh, we're owning the libs," it's just factually inaccurate about the demographics who are not getting the vaccine. It crosses the gamut. And I just gave you
a lot of the people. A lot of these people that you're talking about, Meghan, are watching Sean Hannity.
They're not.
Who's telling them and Tucker Carlson, who are telling them that it's danger. Excuse me, can I please
happen in Los Angeles and New York? To write off, I don't know who these people are that voted for Trump. It's 70 million Americans voted for President Trump.
And I say that a lot of them
demographics have to go both ways.
That's why they voted for him.
I think that's inaccurate. I think that's the perspective of Joy Behar, with all due respect. I mean, I'm ensconced by conservatives and Republicans, and that's just not accurate.
What did you say?
It's just not accurate.
Are you talking so fast? I heard my name, but I don't know what you said about me. What did
I said that's your perspective. It's the perspective of Joy Behar, and you know, you're a proud progressive leftist, but I am a proud conservative, and I think the idea that the only reason why people voted for President Trump in the last election is because they were lied to and they're morons who are just being fed information is not only disrespectful, but it's wildly inaccurate. To say that someone is fed bad information is too dumb to think for themselves, so they voted for Trump.
A lot of this pearl clutching, as they call it, is coming from Fox and right-wing media, and it's a distraction, as Sonny said, from the fact that not a single Republican in the Senate voted for the COVID relief package, which is popular with 60% of Americans. Now, that is the distraction. Let's be clear.
It's been a hot topic on the show. It's because 9% of the bill is actually going to COVID relief. Out of all that, it's completely filled with pork, and it's basically a left-wing fever dream of things that are pushed into this bill along with it. That was conservatives' problem with it, and now that we have
so that's 60% of the Americans.
No, I think that we should have that relief bill only going to COVID relief, not for anything else. Only paychecks to average Americans. 9% of that entire bill is going to Americans. That's the problem conservatives with it. It's not because we hate poor people and we don't want people to have help during the worst economic crisis of my generation. And I think that narrative and framing of it is not only wildly insulting, but it's actually inaccurate. Over it today.
By the way,
And I love George
what's
Washington.
your-
This is what our
what's your
Republicans,
Over it
not
today.
fans
about
of
this?
free
Over it today.
enterprise.
Okay, so
Over it
what we're
today.
going to do is we're going to take a break
Down,
right
girl.
now because
Down.
it isn't working as well as we like.
You're right. You know more about what's going on in your
Isn't
party
that
than I do.
my
But I don't-
sister-in-law is an
Hold on.
advisor to Kevin McCarthy. I have a lot of friends and family who work on Capitol Hill. Like a lot.
Hold on.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
what's the
I'm
question?
not. I'm
Yeah,
not.
sure.
Hold on. My question is, if it's not the Republican Party, shall I call it the QAnon Party? What shall I call your party now, who defends people like Matt Gaetz and goes against Liz Cheney? What are we supposed to call it?
I think you can call it whatever you want
Explain it
because
to me,
your
please.
influence in the Republican Party is almost zero. And again, as I've said on this show, it is for us to figure
Really?
out amongst ourselves. What Republican is like, Joy Behar doesn't like my party? Oh, God, I better stop voting for them now.
You know
I mean,
what,
really,
Meghan?
the same
Hold
way
on,
I have
hold
no
on.
influence on the
Meghan.
left. I don't think, at least.
Yes, but you often on this show give your opinion of what the Democrats should be doing with themselves to better themselves.
But you said that people on Capitol Hill, are supporting him. I'm telling you, from people that I know personally, they are embarrassed. This is embarrassing for the Republican Party.
Okay, then
A
why don't
sitting
they get rid of
congressman-
him?
They should because
Why
I think,
don't they
because
get him
have-
off his committee?
Because they have to convict him or whatever. I'm not a lawyer. They have to. What is it? They have to. The police have to arrest him. I don't know enough about it, but like they have to arrest him and charge him. That's why he's still in Congress.
But they didn't have any problem. They didn't have any problem taking Liz
guys,
Cheney off her committees without any further investigation.
Liz Cheney, but that's a different thing. Liz Cheney wasn't on the committee. She was the
I know
third-ranking member, and she
Suddenly they need
Okay,
proof.
here's what I'm going to do.
Look,
Sunny
you
has a
saying that the
legal note that
Republican
she
Party
needs to
is
read
trash
right now.
is- I don't
So,
care.
Sunny,
It's
would
not
you do me a
revelatory.
favor, please,
Who
and
cares? You
read
say
your
it every
legal
single
note?
day. Every single
Can you
day.
read
I do have a
your
legal note.
Oh,
All
my
right,
God.
we're going to
How
break. We're going to
revelatory.
break.
Yes.
We'll be right back. Senator Lindsey Graham continues to baffle folks with some of his behavior, and his response to an Iraq war veteran who tried to have a civil conversation with him didn't help matters. Take a look.
You took another. Yeah, I did. I don't think. I mean, you have. Is that it?
That's it. Lindsey is really hard for me to talk about in public because I've had to reconcile his politics right now are very different than mine, but I've known the man since I was 10 and I love him very much. I don't condone what he did, but I get it because when people come up to me with if a veteran did it, they could probably do whatever they want to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I don't love it, but I can't talk crap about him. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
We're all in positions where, we work in media and politics and we have to talk about people that we love. Quite frankly, if my dad had been accused of sexual assault, I would be talking about it on The View because I'm not a snowflake and I'm not Chris Cuomo and I too love my family and love my dad, but there's no crying in baseball. This is the job we signed up for. If you can't hack it, you should do something else. And I think the fact that he's acting like he's just too precious to talk about his brother, I too have family in politics. It's tough. I would talk about them on air and I have when it's hard. Grow up.
But there's no reason why brothers can't talk to each other. I'm sure that you would do the same thing if your brother was in trouble. Any of us
Yeah, but
would.
I wouldn't. But I would be woman enough to talk about it on the show because that's what I'm paid to do. Because I'm paid to be on TV to talk about the news, and if my family's in the news, even if they did something bad, if my brother was accused of sexual assault or killing old people, I would talk about it on The View, and I'd say this is really hard, but he should be held accountable. And apparently that's too much for Chris Cuomo to do, and for CNN to hold him accountable to do, which is the difference between CNN and me. I don't love it, but I can't talk crap about him. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
And it showed that Democrats on their side will do anything and everything to smear any conservative. Amy Coney Barrett is a hardcore Catholic. Among other things, she has 7 children. I completely expect her to be, if she is the nominee, to be slandered and maimed in a way we've never seen before.
Without slandering some of the names we're seeing, Judge Amy Coney Barrett said something that should scare all of us. A legal career is but a means to an end.
I would be very careful slandering her, Sarah, before she's even been put in a court.
And I'm not.
And this is what I'm talking about with the Kavanaugh stuff. No, because
Meghan, please just give me
children.
Okay, everybody stop. We'll be back.
The Amy Coney Barrett rhetoric that's going around right now about her being Catholic and her being a mom of 7, I implore the media to be careful with this. There are 64% of Americans identify as Christians, and when you start talking about Christian women, like we're all commanders' wives in A Handmaid's Tale, which is something that has been happening to me since yesterday.
Senator, I do believe that average Americans care about packing the courts, and I just want to know if you would agree and join Joe Manchin and agree that you're not for that.
My job is to take the concerns that are being raised by my constituent. And what I'm telling you is that they're asking about their health care. They're asking about whether or not they can earn a livable wage for working hard every day. And they're wondering when in the world are they going to get relief after waiting for it for months.
Senator, I understand that. I'm just asking you a direct question and asking if you would join him.
Actually, I just
wanted to know if you would join
going to end this. Hey, listen.
The slippery slope that I feel is that if I'm a conservative and I maybe agreed with some of the things Josh Hawley did at any point in time, are you going to not be invited into restaurants? Are you going to have your credit card canceled? It's a very slippery slope.
And the Biden-Harris era of American history began yesterday at the inauguration.
The other thing I want to know is, how did Ted Cruz ever get in there? I would like to know, did he come in underneath Lady Gaga's skirt? These are the questions I have today. So what was he doing there? Why are these enemies there?
I believe Joe Biden. I don't know if I believe the rest of the Democratic coalition. I just listened to Joy call Ted Cruz an enemy and ask why he was even present at the inauguration. Yes, but I hope the Democrats stop referring to us as enemies. We have to work together and live together and coexist together, whether we like it or not.
Yeah. I just wanted to say Ted Cruz was one of the people who encouraged the insurrection on the Capitol. I consider him an enemy. I don't necessarily consider Mitch McConnell an enemy, even though I think he's a political enemy. But I think that Cruz and Hawley are enemies of this country, that they are encouraging insurrections, violence. People died at the Capitol. Yes, Ted Cruz is an enemy right now of this country. I don't take it back.
Until the people of Texas and the people of Missouri rescind them, and until they are no longer senators, and Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley are no longer serving, and the American public decides that they are enemies and traitors, and they need to be removed from office, they have every right to sit in the inauguration as anyone else does. We're hearing a lot of language from people like Katie Couric. The Republicans like me need to be, quote, deprogrammed, that we're brainwashed, that 74 million Americans are basically irredeemable people that we don't need to communicate towards and we don't need to in any way have anything to do with. And if President Biden and Democrats want to have a big tent party and include some of these people, great. And if we're all just deplorable and need to be deprogrammed, as Katie Couric said, then honestly, they can go to hell, because I don't need to be deprogrammed. I just have a different perspective on how the government should be run.
Cool.
Look, it's super disgusting. He should go to jail. It's super embarrassing. Like, I have nothing else to add. It's gross. He's a deeply unserious person. He should be removed from his committees. There's some people on the left that I think should be removed from their committees for some of the things that they've said about Israel and some of the things that they've said. Like, again, if we want to talk about removing committees, we can do this all day long. But Matt Gaetz is a pervert that should go to jail. Okay, the end.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. You know who sat down with George Stephanopoulos for a town hall in Philly, where uncommitted voters asked him to take on the biggest problems in America right now. Here's a few of them. Take a look.
When has America been great for African Americans in the ghetto of America?
Well, I can say this: we have tremendous African American support.
Meghan, what was your take?
I think I see this through a different lens. I actually was most interested in the Abraham Accords, which is this new realignment and peace treaty between United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Israel, and the United States. I wish this was getting more attention and credit. I know that it's hard to give any wins to the Trump administration, but I always try and be fair and call balls and strikes like we see it. And you're seeing a total geopolitical realignment in the Middle East.
Against Iran and for Israel, and there's rumors that Saudi Arabia could be joining. And I thought it was actually a really big day yesterday for all the hubris and sort of baloney that I have seen blown around in this administration about bringing peace to the Middle East. This really is a huge step, and I saw President Trump talk about it, and I was really pleased yesterday. And this is getting very little attention in the scheme of things for just how big it is. And I just wish that we, for a moment, could just take a moment and really appreciate the fact that there's going to be embassies for Israel in Middle Eastern countries right now. And it really is an amazing step forward for peace in the Middle East.
And for any pro-Israel American, it was a really big day. So that was actually what I was most interested last night when I watched.
The president's plan to get kids back to school safely is hitting some roadblocks. He says kids need to mask up since they can't get the vaccine yet. But some parents, states, and local officials are against it.
Look, this is all really confusing, and I think most average Americans are. In Chicago, you can have Lollapalooza festival go on with what looks like around 20,000 or more people going to a festival in concert. I have friends who were just in Las Vegas seeing the Chainsmokers at giant concerts.
Like, this life is going on. Muriel Bowser here in Washington, D.C., putting the mask mandate in order, but not before she partied with Dave Chappelle and then went to a private indoor birthday party with a ton of people and no mask.
Now, I know it's easy to say that it's just Trump supporters and Republicans that aren't getting vaccinated, but in New York City, only 35% of Black Americans have been vaccinated.
And what you're facing right now is A, forcing businesses to choose between their business and their livelihood and protecting people in a virus that if you're vaccinated, has been proven to have a 99.9% chance of surviving.
1 hour later.
I think we are about to see a lot of civil unrest about these vaccine passports and about mask mandates and about where we're heading, unfortunately, going forward.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the original question, which is really about schools. So
Say goodbye to your burgers if you want to sign up for the Biden climate agenda.
Americans would have to cut red meat consumption by a whopping 90%. Guess what's actually making an appearance at the border? Copies of the VP's 2019 children's book.
as it turns out, both of these reports are beyond completely untrue. Don't we have an obligation to try as media people, all media people, to bring the news as it is accurate and then check the stories before we put them out?
Yeah, obviously. And I think that on all sides. And this is a weird topic for me, even when I was talking about it with my producer this morning, and just bear with me on this. I am the token conservative in media, in mainstream media. I'm the only conservative woman in all of media. And the reason why is there is a token is because the mainstream media only feels like there needs to be one on a show like this.
That 1 person out of 5 represented means that there's enough conservative media coverage. What I have found interesting working in what I consider liberal media is not the stories that we talk about, but the stories that we don't talk about. There's been a lot of stories, like, for example, we never once talked about Hunter Biden as a hot topic on this show, whereas if Ivanka Trump or Donald Trump did a cough in the wrong direction, it probably would have taken out the first 2 blocks.
Hours later.
I take such umbrage at this entire concept that liberal media, which runs all of media, all of tech, all of entertainment, all of music, all of culture, all of politics, all 3 branches of government, I'm supposed to feel bad because there's 2 things from Fox News that have been inaccurate. I mean, let's go down the list every day of the things that are inaccurate on CNN and MSNBC, and then we can talk about fairness in the media.
Okay, is it time for troops to finally come home?
This is a really complicated one for me that I've actually been thinking about since yesterday. I have had multiple deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq in my family with both of my brothers, my brother-in-laws, my extended family. The first time my little brother Jimmy deployed to war, he was 17. The last time my brother Jack deployed was a year ago. So the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan have been omnipresent in me and my family's lives. I am friends with more people than I can count that are in the military.
And the general consensus from a large portion of them is that they are very war weary and that they feel like they go over and they fight and they're not treated with the respect or given the health care that they deserve. Obviously, with all the scandals with the VA, 10 soldiers a day commit suicide.
My family has a very good friend who was a soldier.
3 weeks later.
There are great Afghan soldiers that have been doing really, really hard, arduous, and lethal work over the past 20 years, and I hate the idea that we are just going to abandon them with no plan.
Sonny, what's your thinking? Meghan, what are your thoughts on this?
I have a few things. First off, if Major League Baseball is going to boycott the All-Star games, there's a bunch of other baseball games in Georgia that are coming up. They should boycott that too. Put your money where your mouth is. Just completely remove yourself entirely from Georgia, since it's a racist, deplorable, unforgivable place, according to Major League Baseball.
2,000 years later.
And like it or not, Republicans and Democrats have to learn to live with each other. I'm sorry?
Yes, they do.
I'm sorry?
They do. That's all right. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. What?
Are you done? Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Okay, we're done.
Okay.
In Israel, in Tel Aviv, one of the messages that they have, I saw a sign that said, "Get a shot, take a shot." Meaning, if I get the vaccine, then I can go out and I can have shots with my friends. Is the science in Israel different than the science here in the United States of America? Because Israel has over half of their country vaccinated already and seem to be doing pretty well.
I'll just say this little thing about Israel. Israel had a completely different rollout, and it works. It's also a smaller country, and they didn't have a lot of issues with people not wearing their masks. I don't know what is best, but I do know that I
know what I'm saying is controversial. I really do.
You got to do.
But I'm
I
not
understand.
a phony.
It has
I'm not
nothing to
gonna
do
come
with
on
you
air
being.
and say something different.
We'll be right
than what I'm
back
saying.
when we come back.
Now Republicans are aghast that after 4 years of Trump's Shakespearean musings, President Joe Biden would resort to this kind of language. What?
And the last thing we need is the Neanderthal thinking that in the meantime everything's fine, take off your mask, forget it.
We were called Neanderthals when...
Let me ask you this. Isn't this manufactured outrage, or is this a real problem, Meghan?
You know, I actually don't think this is manufactured. I think, unfortunately, the problem is if you're President Biden, you have said that this is going to be the soul of the nation is going to come back. We're going to have a complete and utter paradigm shift. Angels are going to come down from the sky, and there's going to be nothing but unity in the country. It really reminds me of Hillary Clinton's deplorable comment, which I think a lot of people on the left wrote off, and it really did end up hurting her. And I think, unfortunately, it's a self-inflicted wound. You guys can laugh and say, oh, it's a joke, whatever, but Republicans across the country already feel like people on the left think they're dumb rednecks. They're just stupid deplorables in baskets. Nobody cares with their trucks and their flags. That's what Republicans think the media thinks of them. So I was actually surprised to hear him throw around that language. And I think when you have Jen Psaki sort of blowing off Republican questions and Republican talking points, all it does is going to help Republicans be more tribal and think that we're just deplorable Neanderthals. The left has no place for us, so there's no unity whatsoever. And I think that if it's not okay to call gang members animals, but it's okay to call Republicans who are in the middle of the country Neanderthals, it just seems like a lot of hypocrisy.
No. But let's remember what you're saying there and what was just corrected. He didn't call people Neanderthals. He said it was Neanderthal thinking. Okay, we'll be right back.
Potato.
Anna will weigh in.
Oh, Joy, look, my apologies to the Geico caveman, but I think this is one of the most ridiculous subjects I've ever spoken about on TV.
And we can have conversations about what I perceive to be toxic rhetoric, and I'm surprised, Anna, you're a Republican. Aren't you offended that we're considered Neanderthals? I am. I think it's okay. I want to say something, and I want this to be interpreted the right way. In no way am I comparing any of my life experience to Meghan Markle. She experienced something that had egregious racism and happened on a global stage, and she was a complete cultural paradigm shift for the UK. But I do know what it feels like to be on a TV show or a political campaign where people are leaking stories about you with the sole intention to make you look bad. And let me tell you, it will do a number on your mental health like you can't believe. It will make you feel isolated. It will make you feel paranoid. And I think it's a specific way that women are abused in the media. We've been talking about Britney Spears. We've been talking about Meghan Markle. I think we need to reassess what is allowed in different places and what is considered abuse. This woman is now talking about how she was driven to suicide. I was not. I've never been in a place where I've contemplated suicide, thank God. But I do think when you're in places, whether it be work or a family like the royal family, and you are not protected, and people are trafficking in gossip with the intention to make you look bad and hurt your reputation, I can see how they felt like there was no other option for them and their family to put them in a safe space, specifically when she was pregnant and when she had a new young child. And I just hope it makes us reassess who we are, both globally and in America, about how we treat women that are on stages and what is legally allowed when it comes to falsehoods and leaking. That's what I thought yesterday.
I'm sorry. I pitched this just because I always joke with my friends, and I put this on our text chain too, like Sunny knows, like, I'm ready to start a commune or a compound, any place anyone wants that's free of crazy people, because I can't take it anymore. And I think the rest of the world, like, crazy people can have this area and we can all live on a ranch with me and all are invited. You just can't be crazy.